I'm Kevin Arba. I'm an astrologer, a coach, and a healer. If you're interested in connecting with me, if you have any questions, any comments, if you're interested in a reading or you're curious about what a reading even is, if you have anything you want to say to me at all, by all means, just reach out to me. You can email me at info@cosmicintegrationhealing.com. You can also check out my website, cosmicintegrationhealing.com. I'm happy to have a conversation with anybody. It's free of charge. I love talking about this stuff. I love to meet people. So if you feel like there's anything that you have to share with me, anything that you are curious about, just reach out. I'd love to talk to you.
And just to add to that, Kevin, if anybody has any specific astrology questions, please email Kevin, and, we may even potentially invite you on to this, podcast that we do, and actually look at your specific chart and, invite you onto the Zoom so that, you could be part of the conversation. So definitely reach out, because we're hoping to kind of grow this astrology community, and really engage with people. So today we're actually going to be taking a quick look at Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s chart. And for anybody that's not familiar with him, he's running for president in the 2024 election on the Democratic ticket. We're not trying to promote RF Kennedy Jr. as a candidate or discourage anybody from voting for him. We're just hoping to objectively look at his natal chart, and also the reason that his family is so intimately tied with American history. His uncle was JFK, who was assassinated, and then his father was also assassinated in 1968. Robert F. Kennedy, who was also the Attorney General for JFK. So today we're just going to take a quick look at his chart because, again, he's intimately tied in with American history and current transits. Born Sunday, January 17th, 1954, and it says time unknown in Washington, D.C. So I guess he does have an unknown birth time.
Yeah, so this chart also puts his ascendant in Taurus, as did the other birth chart that I saw. The other one had it more like at the beginning of Taurus. This one looks like it's more in the middle.
Yeah, just for the listeners, I guess, when you don't have a birth time, the ascendant may not be accurate, and depending on if the moon changed signs that day, the moon might not be accurate.
Yeah, so when there's no birth time, the moon moves an average of 12 degrees per day, though it could be 13 or 11. I don't completely understand the physics of it, but it's not.
So you'll get a general chart idea, but
and so what it'll do for the moon is it'll put it right in the middle where it could have been on that day. So the amount of potential variance is roughly 6 degrees either way. So that's why it's useful if you could have even a ballpark, like a 2-hour window, then it at least will give a closer to exact location for the moon. So in this case, it appears that whoever came up with this chart has some sort of a ballpark birth time, that it would have been, he would have been born sometime in the afternoon, because his sun is at the midheaven. So okay, here's his, I guess, if you want to, did you want to look at the transits? So in 1963 and then 1968, I guess.
Yeah.
All right.
So it's January 17th.
Well, yeah, I'm just going to go to the ephemeris. Okay, and so
just for the listeners, we're looking at the transits that were going on for RFK Jr. when his father was killed in June 1968.
All right, so here's his June 1968, the 5th day. The sun was in the middle Gemini. Looks like the moon would have been in Virgo, so it would have been around the quarter moon. Mercury was stationing retrograde at 2 degrees of Cancer. Venus 10 degrees of Gemini. Mars at 19 degrees of Gemini. So interesting again. Mars and Venus, once again, kind of lining up with Uranus and Mars in America's birth chart. In RFK's birth chart, I don't think. Let me see. So he has Jupiter there. So Mars was transiting his Jupiter, which is also then America's Mars. He had Mercury retrograde here at the beginning of Cancer, so it wasn't. I guess it would have been near the midpoint of his moon Jupiter. Jupiter was at the end of Leo, which I think is where Pluto is in his birth chart. Yeah. So Jupiter would have been transiting his Pluto.
Oh, okay.
Saturn at 22 degrees of Aries. Actually would have been square to, so he has this Chiron, Venus, Sun, Mercury, and probably midheaven, all conjunct here at the end of Capricorn, opposite to Uranus and square to Neptune. So you had Saturn over here, and Saturn also in its sign of its fall, square to this whole group here, square to Uranus, opposite Neptune. So activating that whole T-square. So that would have been perhaps like the main thing. Yeah, let's see, Neptune. Uranus is in Virgo. Pluto would have also been somewhere in Virgo. Let's see, yeah, also at the end of Virgo. Oh, and the nodes would have then been square. So the North Node, transiting North Node, would have been conjunct transiting Saturn. So those eclipses, wherever they were, which would have been 2 months prior, roughly, would have also kind of involved Saturn. Yeah, so that's what was going on for RFK, and then for America, that would have also then had, the node transiting nodes in Saturn would have been square to Pluto and the Sun. You would have, and then you would have had also Mars, Sun, and Venus moving through Gemini, which would have been activating Uranus and Mars in America's chart. So yeah, that's
and just in general, he's had a extremely difficult life. I mean, obviously the assassinations of his dad and uncle, but then his first wife, they were getting divorced and she committed suicide.
wow.
So he's had a really, really difficult life. And then I also think it's interesting, and this is America's birth chart we're looking at right now, not RFK's, but this idea of specifically him with censorship, I think he testified at Congress about the topic of censorship, and then they wanted to censor his testimony. But I also think that really interesting thing about him is that he's literally losing his voice.
He's actually getting it. He said it's getting better. He had a surgery recently that has improved it. But yeah, I mean, part of like it's really interesting that this happened to him like decades ago. I think he was 42. And prior to that, he had a booming voice. He didn't even use a microphone when he would speak to like 1,000 people. And so then something happened that affected him neurologically. Which it's a neurological issue, not like a
physical issue. Okay.
So yeah, and so that happened when he was 42. He's 68 now. So, and 42 is it's around the time when Uranus is halfway.
Yeah, that's that midlife crisis transit. Yeah.
Particularly for prominent people. I mean, I would say for everybody to some extent, or most people at least, but certainly for prominent people, that Uranus, like the halfway point of Uranus's orbit is something significant happens in a person's life. And so for RFK Jr., that would also then include Uranus transiting his Sun, Mercury, Venus, and Chiron, and midheaven.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, so John F. Kennedy, the president, he became president at age 42. He was 46 when he was assassinated.